Hello and welcome to the BodyBeat Sync video tutorial for firmware release 1.3. It's been about a year since we had a firmware release. The last one was 1.2 and there have been about 6 notable improvements other than bug fixes that will affect user experience since version 1.2. If you have not seen the video for version 1.2, I would recommend that you watch that first, as there are a couple things in there that require in-depth explanation that will not be covered in this release, which those features are also included in 1.3.0. We had quite a few customers request the ability to lower the intensity of the included vibe clip. In firmware release 1.3.0, you can now access the intensity of the vibe clip in the same way that you access the voice currently on the BodyBeat Sync. Currently, by pressing Shift, Pitch Voice, you're given a menu numbered 1 through 4 for the different voices of the metronome. When the vibe clip is plugged in, however, you're given a menu of 1 through 9 for intensity of the vibe clip. So you can see if I bring this all the way down to 1, it's barely buzzing. And bringing it all the way up to 9 would be normal operation of the BodyBeat Sync. The next feature of the firmware release is really more of a bug fix, but one that is relevant enough to include in this video. There were a few reported cases of BodyBeat Syncs unable to charge due to batteries that had drained to a point where the software was not able to detect that a battery was actually in the unit. In firmware release 1.3.0, there are some new algorithms in the software to solve this problem. So if you've received a unit that seems unable to charge, all you need to do is slide open the back panel, remove the battery, then plug in the USB cable, hold down the tempo button, and plug the other end into a computer. The BodyBeat will start in update mode. You can update the firmware and this will fix the battery problem. The next improvement in firmware 1.3.0 has to do with tempo maps. The initial version of the BodyBeat Sync could store up to 1,000 bars in one of 9 tempo maps. However, it could only store 128 unique bars. So let me take a minute to explain that. If you have a tempo map that is, let's say, 8 bars long and there's 4 bars of 4/4 and 3 bars of 3/4, really these are only 2 unique bars. They're just repeated 4 times a piece to give you the 8 bars total. So in the initial BodyBeat Sync, you could have 1,000 bars, but there could only be 128 unique bars. In version 1.2.0, we doubled that to meet user demand of tempo maps. And it seems now that tempo maps have gotten so big, we've actually just fully blown out the memory, and now you can have 1,000 unique bars in each of 9 tempo map slots. A lot of customers have requested the ability to alter the tempo of tempo maps. Up until now, when you created a tempo map via your favorite notation software or on the online tempo map creator at bodybeat.net, whatever tempos you created within the tempo map were permanent and you could not change them once you loaded that tempo map onto the BodyBeat hardware. But in this firmware version release, 1.3 now, tempo maps have the ability to scale tempo proportionately across the whole tempo map. For example, the tempo map I have here has bars 1 through 16, all at 120 beats per minute. Now, as you can see, there are several different meter changes within those 16 bars, but in bar 17 it changes to 162.3. So version 1.3.0 allows me to change the tempo in any bar and have all other tempos. As you can see, bar 17 has now changed proportionately. It's not a one-to-one relationship, so 1 BPM in bar 1 will not equate to 1 BPM in the next tempo change. Recently we've learned that the BodyBeat Sync is also being used for dance instruction. So we had the feature request to be able to program patterns in that represented the strong beats and weak beats and different foot movements. So instead of having the ability to program those in, we've consulted some professional dance instructors and just included now 14 of the most common dance steps. They're numbered 1 through 14, but you can go to bodybeat.net and look at which preset correlates to which step. The last major feature update in this firmware release has to do with the wireless ability of the BodyBeat Sync when using 2 or more in a group. The range of the BodyBeat Sync out of the box is about 100 yards. Now there are some cases in outdoor rehearsals where one unit may wander off further than that 100 yards, or the director is running around the field and between him and the furthest synced unit there are more than 100 yards. So we've solved that problem in the latest release. But let's first go ahead and review how to set up a network. First, you pick a unit to designate as a master. You press the mode button until you see the word master on the screen. Then you press and hold the sync button and you'll see an icon animate at the top of the screen. Then you'll see an OR icon standing for open registration. Now at this point, any unit can join this network because the master is in open registration. However, if I hold the sync button again, it closes open registration and no other new units can join. So I'll hold it down and put it back into open registration. Now you take the units that you want to synchronize to that master and press the mode button until it says sync. Press the sync button once and you'll see an icon animate. And when it's found the network, you'll see an apostrophe D has been added to the sync to designate that it's been synced to the nearest master. So here we have a situation where we have a 3-group network. The unit on the upper right is designated as the master, and these 2 units are synced to that master. And as you can see, they're responding to whatever I do with the master now. So in the event that one of the synced units gets too far away from the master unit, Firmware version 1.3 now allows a bridge unit to relay the signal from the master to the furthest unit away. So if this synced unit becomes beyond the 100 yards from the master, or there's some kind of obstruction in between, this unit that's somewhere in the middle will now relay the signal from the master to the furthest unit. To be able to fully use all the features in firmware version 1.3.0, you'll also have to upgrade your desktop software. The current version of desktop software is also 1.3.0. For further instructions on how to update the firmware successfully, please see the YouTube video, How to Update Your BodyBeat Sync Firmware.